Salutations and shit, folks. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite travel podcast, Travel and Shit, where I, your host, D. Carey, have an experiential conversation about the nuanced ways that travel intersects with regular life. Happy Halloween. If you are listening to this on release date, this will be out on October 31st. Happy spooky day, folks. So I wanted to keep this episode spooky themed, if you will. And if you want a little bit of the backstory as to how this gets tied into the spookies, join my Substack. I recently started a Substack so that I could expound, if you will. So if you're not new here and you've been here before, y'all know that I tend to rabbit hole. I can go tumbling down these cavernous rabbit holes. And in an attempt to not do that and to get to the point, I started a Substack so that I could give more context as to why I chose the topic for the week's episode and give you a couple of fun backstories. Like, I know recently I was telling you guys about my alien and ghost sightings. So if you want to hear more about that, join the Substack. And as another aside about the Substack, I've got a new itinerary pack coming out. So through Halloween, through October 31st, the first 10 subscribers of my Substack will receive my new New England road trip itinerary pack for the free. Anyone else who subscribes after the first 10 subscribers to the Substack through Halloween, so anyone beyond from number 11 to 659. That was a random number, but to everybody else who subscribes to the Substack on Halloween, through Halloween, y'all get it for $1. So first 10, get it for free. And everybody else that subscribes by Halloween gets a code to get the itinerary pack for $1. It goes on sale November 1st, and on that date it'll be $4.99. So not a bad price either way. But if you want your shot at getting it for free, why not join the Substack? So the itinerary pack is because I also have a New York City road trip, which is cities that are everything is accessible driving. That's hence the road trip part. But there's a New York City pack, but then there's a New England pack. New England pack has 9 cities and 6 different states. It has Hartford, Connecticut, Providence, Rhode Island, Salem, Massachusetts, Gloucester, Massachusetts, Northampton, New Hampshire, and Portland, Surrey, and Bar Harbor, Maine, and Johnson, Vermont. So 9 cities, 6 different states. Why think extra hard for vacation? Have some shit planned, know where to stay, know where to eat. I got you covered. So head over to the Substack for that. Also, for a little bit more context to this week's episode, which is about U.S. cities and towns with dark histories. So recently did Salem. Personal dream of mine actualized. I've wanted to visit Salem because I am very much so into the occult and the spookies and the supernatural. And so ever since I was a kid, that's been some place that I wanted to go. While I was in Salem and we were listening to the self-guided tour of the spots of note related to the Salem witch trials, I learned that the actual hangings and the murders, the executions, if you will, didn't happen in Salem because it's currently not Salem anymore. So they happened in Salem Village, which is technically now Danvers, Massachusetts. It's a town right next to Salem, but it used to be Salem. It was Salem Village, and they wanted to kind of like distance themselves a bit, if you will, and so became Danvers, but the history still happened. So I went down on a little Google uh, search for other cities that had some shit going on. And initially, I wanted it to be cities that had histories that they tried to hide. And I came across one in particular that was definitely, wow, y'all fucked up in the whole hiding part. But then as I was looking more, I started just finding more really just weird and creepy shit. So pull up, sit back and buckle up for this one. First one, Elaine, Arkansas. So, home of the Elaine Massacre during the Red Summer because of so many racial uprisings across the country. Elaine, Arkansas, absolutely not the only place that it has happened. However, this one, interesting. So, more recently, the population of Elaine is only about 700 people. But back in 1919, from September 30th to October 2nd, um, Black residents, or I don't, couldn't really necessarily say residents because who knows if they all actually lived in Elaine, but Black folks in the area brutalized, tortured by white mobs, KKK members, local folks, and also actual federal troops, like federal country mandated, like U.S. troops went and can't say decimated because the city is still there. Decimated the Black population there. Don't know if any Black people still live there or not. Curious question. I didn't Google that part, but that was the part for me was the federal troops. It's one thing for, you know, shit to go down with locals, but for the country to also back that up was wild to me. But the state actually tried to hide that the massacre had happened. So I'm just going to read what I got off of Wikipedia for y'all. And this, they killed over 200 or so people, but history is a funny thing, right? Where who's to say what numbers are accurate or not? There were eyewitness testimonies, but considering that y'all tried to hide the history, whose numbers are we really going to go with, right? Like, it's what are we doing? So, after the massacre, this is from Wikipedia, by the way, and the links for the websites that I got all this information are all going to be in the description box. So, after the massacre, state officials concocted an elaborate cover up claiming that Blacks were planning an insurrection. National newspapers repeated the falsehood that Blacks in Arkansas were staging an insurrection. A New York Times headline read, "Planned Massacre of Whites Today." And the Arkansas Gazette, the leading newspaper in Arkansas, um, wrote that Elaine was a zone of Negro insurrection. Subsequent to this reporting, more than 100 African Americans were indicted, with 12 being sentenced to death by electrocution. After a years-long legal battle by the NAACP, the 12 men thankfully were acquitted. And there's another note here that because of the widespread attacks which mobs committed against Blacks during the Red Summer of 1919, the Equal Justice Initiative of Montgomery, Alabama classified the Black deaths at Elaine as lynchings in its 2015 report on the lynching of African Americans in the South. So, unfortunately, all the people there may not have died per se by lynching, but because of the racialized violence that they experienced during that time, they were considered in that grouping of considered in the categorization of lynching for that particular report. Another city that I found, this one wasn't the only, it was a mining town. This one was in Idaho, in Burke, Idaho. How often do you hear about mining towns, right? I know that when I went to Joshua Tree, I was expecting to kind of get the feel of what a mining town may look like when we went to, I think it was called Pioneer Town. is it Pioneer Town? I think it was Pioneer Town in the Joshua Tree area, and it wasn't giving abandoned town like I was expecting. It really did give like a staged kind of area. It was not what I expected, to say the least. But of course, there is some real shady fucking history with actual mine towns. Well, at least this one in particular. So I thought this one was kind of funny because so much fucking shit happened here. And the place where it happened is only 300 feet wide. Like, it's in the middle of a canyon, so obviously space limited, but like, why would you even choose there if it's only 300 feet? I don't know. But that ain't none of my business. So it was founded in 1887 as a mining town for silver and lead. And in the first 4 years of this becoming like an incorporated city, there was an avalanche, mine explosion. This one was accidental. More on the this part. And a shootout between miners and the mine owners where 6 people died. Within the first 4 years, all of those catastrophes happened. At that point, after the shootout, the governor of Idaho actually declared martial law and sent in hundreds of soldiers to restore the peace. That was in 1892. So, didn't last long. I want to say within the next 7 years, to follow comes a hotel fire, another mine explosion, but this mine explosion in 1899, unlike the one back in let's just say 1888, just because I know that the mine explosion the first one happened within the first 4 years, but the second one was actually intentional. A couple of miners got fired, and because they was pissed, they went back and burned that bitch down. So, an intentional mine explosion, another avalanche, a fire, a flood, and another fire. So, needless to say, it was abandoned in 1991, but I feel like it kind of, lost its luster way before the 90s. That's a lot of shit to happen in like, what, like 20 years, 87? Not even like, oh no, well, just the mine explosion was in 1899. I don't know what the like the window on like that last batch of things that I had put in there, but what was wild, in 300 feet of space, all of this shit happened. I want to say which makes sense, considering most crimes are crimes of proximity, like the whole myth of black on black crime. Statistically, you are more inclined to commit crimes on against people that live in your same community, in your proximity. You're right on top of each other, shared spaces, shared issues, shared grievances. Shit happens. But I guess in 300 feet of space, and I don't know if that's just 300 one way. It could be another 3,000 feet another way. Don't know. It didn't distinguish, but it said it was 300 feet, which is possible that it's maybe just 300 feet between the mountains that created the canyon. I don't know. I don't know. Next one. This one was interesting, and I chose this one because I'm a New Yorker and this is in New Jersey. So I'm going to tell you all the shittery that's going on in this little pocket and then give you a fun little backstory as to why that one was interesting to me. So, Liberty and Independence, New Jersey. Betwixt the two towns, there is a road with the actual name of Shades of Death Road. That road runs between the two towns. Crazy history about that stretch there. So, malaria outbreak, and that was because of like an insect infestation that happened, I want to say in like the 20s or the 30s. Wild shit, malaria. Um, Lethal wildcat attacks against travelers. I'm assuming this was, and this because there were a couple of different sites that did reference this. I won't say this one town because it's two different towns, but this one area. And one of them did distinguish that like before the road was even paved. So let's like recall, if we will, back in our minds, we didn't always have roads. People traveled without them for quite some time, whether that be when you're little. I don't even, what was horse and carriage? I was about to call my buggy because I feel like buggies were like early cars. That doesn't necessarily mean that the road was even paved then, but still have to say there was a time when people did travel. So when you say travelers, I just want to clarify that it's not necessarily like you and I tourist travelers, but like travelers that were just passing through. Time wise, era in the world, the big world of time and space. There were those wildcat attacks, robberies, and murders by highwaymen, and then the lynching of said highwaymen. Three brutal murders. None of them were, what do you call it, connected to each other. One of them apparently was a woman who decapitated her husband and buried the head on one side of the road and the body on another side of the road. Fun. Um, an above average number of fatal car accidents. I don't know what above average is considered, but, and not to be remiss or forgetful to also include all the paranormal shit that's going on, all of the ghosts and other sightings that happen along that road as well. Now, I've mentioned before, one of my favorite shows is Supernatural. And I want to say it was the first, second, or third episode. Probably, it might have been the first. I know it's that whole dad's on a hunting trip kind of thing where Dean kind of tells Sam, "Hey, bro, we got to go find our dad. He's missing," because they're hunters. And the the lore in that episode, I want to say, was a woman in white, which is basically a woman that dies and becomes a ghost because she's tied to. I don't know if it's specifically because she's tied to something that happened to her kids, or if she is just a grieving woman, or if the woman in white legend has to be like a scorned woman. I know it's a thing. The woman in white, there are lots of different versions. And I don't want to say versions as if there's only one, but I know there's like, I don't know how to pronounce it. Lorena, the crying woman or something like that. There was a whole movie on that shit. I don't know why Goofy Me may have tried to start watching it on a plane, or I kind of backed out because I was on the plane the last time I thought about watching that movie. And then there's, I remember this movie from like the 90s, and I believe the woman who played, I don't know if her name was Angela, but the woman that played the older woman from Who's the Boss? Right. She was in that movie, I'm pretty sure. And she played the ghost figure in this shit called, and I'm pretty certain the shit was called A Lady in White. And I'll never forget because the kid was terrified and he was hiding in this closet, and the closet that he in the school, and the closet that he was hiding in looked exactly like the closets in my elementary school. Fucked me up, y'all. Fucked me up. Now I gotta go see if I can find that movie and watch it again because I'm curious if it's still scary. But that woman in white, I guess you could say lore. Yeah. Woman in white lore. I wouldn't say like mythology or anything like that, but it's always been an interesting one to me. But Liberty and Independence, New Jersey. I also did not look up how far away it was or where that road actually is, but I don't know if I want. Do you like? Would you want to know something like that, or would you just want to get where you like? What if you had to go that way? You know what I mean? Like, would you want to know that a particular area that you were driving through or a road that you were driving down had some type of like wild history or haunted history, lore, if you will? I don't know if I'd want to know. I don't know if I would want to know. Part of me thinks no, that I would just want to get where I got to go. Because keep in mind, when you're driving places, you don't know what has happened in the areas. You don't know what towns you're driving through when you have to stop for gas. All those things terrify me when I am in areas that I don't know the tone of the space. I don't know if they are, I'm black if you're listening on the podcast. I'm a black woman. I don't know if they fuck with my kind everywhere when we're doing road trips. My partner is not black. So we we don't appeal to everybody. Um, yeah, that is one thing to be black, but then it's another thing to be with like a not black person out in public in some spaces. You feel me? So there's that aspect of all those things are always sitting on me or on the back of my mind when we are on road trips and we say have to pull over for gas, or if we need to get snacks or use the bathroom or whatever. I know West Virginia was one of the places that I was terrified to stop in, but I had to use the bathroom. I think we needed gas, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And that actually ended up being a really interesting stop. Interesting in good ways. Like the people there were actually mad cool. We went into a Waffle House, met these three entertaining characters, and they were all mad chill. And I hope they're doing well now. Um, what was the next one? This one was interesting. Centralia, Pennsylvania. The shit been on fire for over 60 years, I think over 60 years. So at this point, one of the websites said that the population as of 2024 was about 5 fucking people. They are nicknamed Hell, and by they, I mean the city of Centralia is nicknamed Hell on Earth because of said fire. So back in May of 1962, firefighters were tasked with cleaning up the town dump, and of no fault to these people, I would assume. I'm making that sweeping generalization because I don't know. I would venture to say that most people of that era had no concept of like global warming and all that thing. So the idea of burning trash now just seems like such a terrible fucking idea, especially if you are not separating and necessarily making sure that what you can burn isn't going to create toxic fumes, gases, or anything of the sort. But that's what they were doing back then. And it was normal for them to just burn the trash to clean the landfill. And that didn't go over so well because there was a series of uh, tunnels underground that have natural gas. So set the fire, natural gas caught, and the shit has been burning since. So unfortunately, that led to sinkholes, open flames, and toxic gas clouds that that basically caused a 30-year evacuation. That was another really weird one, that it took 30 years for people to evacuate. I now, thanks to Twitter, um, can see why it may take a long time for people to evacuate, because not everybody has the resources. Not everybody has the same access to information. Even when you look now, right, at poison gas, look at Atlanta. There was the biolab thing, fire that happened. What was it? Maybe it was this month. So a couple weeks ago. And I don't even know if they've lifted the stay in place orders. About to reach out to those folks after, because I have a ton of people in Atlanta area. Um, Even now, seeing how one, slow to act local officials are and can be, and then two, like, people will stay or people will still go about their daily lives. Look at Florida. You know what I mean? Where hurricanes, not everybody has the same tolerance for different things. And also back in the 60s, between, I don't know how quickly or easily that information was disseminated against or to the people. But that's one thing that I will say in terms of evacuations in particular. I try not to rush to judge when I hear that something wasn't evacuated quickly. And I'd say that I don't rush to judge the people that live in the town, like the townsfolk, the commoners, if you will, civilians, the local officials, the ones who are tasked with having more information and making sure that they are abreast of the factual occurrences happening in their towns and not just the feelings of what people feel like, they want to do or may feel like is best for the town, like factually what is going on, right? Those people I do judge, to be clear. But yeah, over 30 years for the entire town to evacuate kind of thing was, and I'm like, well, so what are the 5 residents that are still there? Are they there as a, hey, halt, don't go here because it's dangerous kind of thing? Also, what all is burning? I mean, because it's like, yes, natural gas. There was the landfill. But now that it's like extended to the whole town, you don't know what all people had in their homes. You don't know what kinds of things businesses have held on to. Tons of things at this point are now on fire. So I don't understand those 5 people's being there. I'm hoping it's in some sort of official capacity because I can't envision people wanting to be there otherwise. And the last one, Sharpsburg, Massachusetts. This one was uniquely interesting to me because I feel like there's gotta be like I personally, me, D, unequivocally believe this place to be charmed to some extent. And by charmed, I mean cursed. The area, Sharpsburg, to my current knowledge as of the 2024 of things, around 700 people in terms of currently populating the space. Don't know why those 700 people are still there. But September 17th, 1862, the bloodiest day in American war history, not American war, but wars, because there was an American war. So the bloodiest single day, over 22,000 casualties in a single day, 12-hour span, one day. So it's not the bloodiest war, right? This spot in particular didn't have like the most casualties in a war, but the most casualties in a single day, because Gettysburg had like over 50,000 people die at Gettysburg. But in Sharpsburg, Massachusetts, over 22,000 people died on this one singular day in a 12-hour window. 5:30 in the morning and 5:30 in the afternoon. Confederate soldiers, Union soldiers met at the Battle of Antietam. And, well, no. They had the Battle of Antietam because they met at Antietam Creek. That's why it was the Battle of Antietam. They didn't meet at the Battle of Antietam. I stopped a rabbit hole right there. So, met there, battled it out for 12 hours. 22,000 people in a single day in a single area. My brain can't, like that 22,000 people. That had to have been what, like 7% of the country's population at that. I don't know. I picked an arbitrary number because I feel like I did look it up at one point. But consider though, right? This was also in 1862. So 22,000 people was a shit ton of fucking people because there weren't even that many people in the country. We've got, I think we're what, at billions of people? Let's see. How many people are in the US? What is the What is US population 2024? We are at between 300 and 35,895,238 and 345 million people. So we're at a couple of freaking million. Oh, United States population is estimated at, here we go, 345,426,571 people at the middle of the year 2024. So that's where we're at now. Let's just assume let's even big it up and say we had 100 million people. 22,000 people is still a pretty fucking significant portion of even that number. Let me see what was the US population? Let me see. What was it? 1890, 1862. 1862. Let's see if it pops up. Oh, shit. The population of the United States in 1862 was only 31,443,321 fucking people. Let me see if I can do the math on that. Well, and by me, I mean the computer. What percent of this? Let's see what that math is. What percent of blank is 22? Okay, right. Damn, I'm good. Carry the decimal 2 places to the right. 6.9967164%. 7% of the country died in a single fucking day. That is my point. 7% of the country. Now let's see. What percent of, let me see if I can look up the population now so I can, we'll see where we're going here. US population 2024. Let's see what 22, let's see what 7% is now. What percent of, oh, no, I want to know what is 7%. What is 7% of current population? All right, so 7%. Yo. So imagine if 24,179,859. It's technically 859.97. So let's round that up to a full person and say 860. So 24,179,860 people. Imagine if 24 million people died in a single 12-hour window. Extended pause. There's nothing like extended pause for effect. Imagine 24 million people dying in a 12-hour window in the United States, not even like across the globe, in this country. The one country. Imagine 24 million people, imagine 24 Americans dying in a single 12-hour window of one day. That's what happened at the Battle of Antietam in Sharpsburg, Massachusetts. And that is wild to me. That is wild to me. Not only did that many people die, they died very violent fucking deaths. There's no way you are telling me that place ain't fucking marked. Like, you can't come back from that. Like, you can't come back from that. 7% of the country's population died in 12 hours. I can't get up. You see, repeating it. Sorry, rabbit hole. Wild to me. And that battle is what led Lincoln to issue the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, which makes sense. At that point, it's just like a numbers game. Like, what are we doing? Are we going to lose another 10%, give or take, of the population before we figure something out? Insane to me, y'all. Fucking sane. So that was me dragging y'all on that little side quest of mine. Every episode is a side quest. I end up with a question. I start thinking of something, or I see something and I'm thinking, you know, I have more questions. And then we have an episode. Y'all, travel is so much more than vacation. It's also the little things that you learn along the way. That one thing that I learned on that road trip when we were in Salem got the gears turning. I was curious about where else has there been really interesting dark history in these here United States. And there's millions more stories of wild shit happening all over the country, let alone the world. But these five were the five that I decided to bring to your attention today. I hope you enjoyed the little spooky theme, if you will. I wanted to keep it a little creepy for you guys for the all of October. And I've got some really, really, really great episodes coming up for you guys that I've recorded and have been sitting on, and I'm excited to share them with you coming up soon. So continue to join me here every Thursday, and I will see y'all next week. Bye.